I know this is a really anxious time. Bar exam is all about practice, memorization and practice. I'm going to show you my actual study schedule. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, my name is Brittany and we are in the Life as a Lawyer series. You probably clicked on this because you want to learn about how to study for the bar exam, how to prepare for the bar exam, and what to expect on the bar exam. I'm going to split this video up into two parts because it's pretty long. The first part, this video, will be all about how to study for the bar exam and how to prepare, and basically my study schedule. I took the bar back in July 2014, so it's been a little bit of time, and I know that now it's a 2-day exam versus a 3-day exam, so my study schedule will be maybe slightly different, as well as the next video, which will be all about what to expect on the bar exam and how to prepare for the actual days of the bar exam, but we'll go into all of that in the next video. Also, if the background looks different, it's because I am here in California filming in Hui's old room, so that's why it looks a little different and a little more colorful. The first topic I want to cover is basically how you can prepare during law school. I know a lot of you are either 1Ls or 2Ls or thinking about going into law school. Maybe you're not a 3L yet. Maybe the bar exam is sort of this abstract idea you don't know much about yet. And the best way to prepare is to take specific bar exam classes. I know I talked about this in my How to Study in Law School video, which you can click up here to watch that. But basically, there are certain classes that your professors or your school tell you are bar specific classes. They cover contracts, torts, there's more abstract ones like for California, the community property, there's wills and trusts. There's certain classes that are geared towards the 13 total subjects you'll be tested on for the bar exam. So the best thing to do is to take those classes. Some of them may not even be required. Some people, they feel like they don't need to take them, but I would say take them because why not get as much information as possible, as much practice taking the exams, practice questions. A lot of the times professors will use questions that were on previous bar exams or multiple choice questions. So the best thing really to do is to make sure you take those bar exam classes. My second piece of advice during law school would be basically to save all of your outlines, your notes, everything possible for those specific classes, because you can go back to them, you can read through them, you can review them, not only for your finals but for the bar exam. You will be taking specific bar courses such as bar bleak, Kaplan, or if your school has a supplemental bar program, but it always helps to have other supplemental notes and things that you can use. Most importantly, saving your outlines, because of course your notes during class are basically like 100-page documents on your computer, but if you have succinct outlines that you use for exams, those are really going to be helpful. In addition, your rule statements that you've made throughout the school year will be very helpful on the bar exam as well. Another thing that was really unique to Chapman, where I went to law school, is that we had select topics in American law, a required course in your 3L year that you take your first and second semesters. It's basically a crash course in teaching you all about the 13 subjects that you're going to be tested on for the bar exam, as well as each midterm and final were mock bar exams. It was all focused on essay writing. So we would practice essays, we would practice issue spotting, doing our IRAC structure, and it was really helpful, I think, to just go through as a class the 13 subjects and really through the focus of the bar exam, because of course, although law school is preparing you for the bar exam, they're going to include a lot of things that aren't really tested on the bar exam. The bar exam is very formulaic. People who have taken the bar exam and who study the bar exam, like our professor, he knows what's tested. They even go through and they survey the past like 10 plus years of bar exams and see which subjects were tested and which subjects were not tested, which ones are probably due for testing. I guess as a caveat, if you don't know, the bar exam, you basically go in and you don't know which subjects are going to be tested. As I've mentioned a million times in this video already, there are 13 total subjects, but only a certain number of them are tested because there's only a certain number of essays that you're going to be given, and you don't know the topics beforehand. So you basically have to prepare for all 13 because you don't know which ones you're going to have to cite rule statements to or issue spot. And often in these fact pattern essays, there are multiple subjects being tested. For example, remedies is usually tacked onto other contract issues, so it really depends, and I think the best way to be prepared is to just know everything, obviously, because you can't predict. Even though people try to predict what they'll test, they say, well, you know, contracts hasn't been tested in 4 years, so it's probably due to be tested soon. Or they might test an abstract item, like for example remedies, which a lot of people might not have taken a specific remedies class for, or they may not have understood remedies as well, but then they'll test it on the bar exam. So being prepared is the best way throughout your law school career. Obviously, you know how you study best in law school. You got here to your 3L year and you already know the best way to study, the best way that you study. And this may not be the best way for you. It was the best for me because I know how I like to study for finals, for example. You can always modify your own study schedule. I think what you can take from this is that you just need to take it seriously and you need to really study for the full 2 months. The second category of advice is basically how to study and how to prepare after law school. As soon as you hit graduation, you basically have a few days before you have to start on your bar exam schedule. I would say that once Memorial Day hits, the day after Memorial Day, you should go into your bar exam studies mode. So if you want to go on a trip, if you want to hang out with your family, celebrate with your friends, do that all before Memorial Day, and then after that, you're basically stuck for 2 months studying up until the bar exam. Again, this schedule is assuming that you're taking the bar exam in July, which most people do because they graduate in May or early June. But if you're taking the February bar, then you just basically take the same schedule except you apply it to the February timeline instead. The third category of advice is to take a bar prep course. So similar to how I said in my video for getting into law school, you should take an LSAT prep course. There are also bar prep courses, and similarly, Kaplan is one of them and Barbary is the other. There may be other ones out there that I don't really know about, but the two main ones, and you'll hear about them all throughout law school, are Barbary and Kaplan. For me, I would say 90% of the people at Chapman took Barbary, and I think most people take Barbary, but Kaplan was a little cheaper. And also, as a side note for Barbary, usually if you sign up your 1L year, you pay a lesser price when you actually take the bar prep course. And for Kaplan, I think I just signed up and it was like one price. There were probably about 4 of us who ended up taking it, and there was a bit of me that was wondering if I would fail because I didn't take Barbary, which everyone else was, but obviously I passed on the first time, and I think everyone in my class did as well. So it doesn't really matter in the end whether you take Barbary or Kaplan. It matters what effort you put into the exam. So I would say that take whichever one. Maybe money is worth more to you. Maybe you're a Barbary or a Kaplan rep and you get a discount, or maybe there's other reasons why, because of availability or whatever. I think it doesn't matter as long as you put the effort in and you take a course that is known to have a good reputation. Both Kaplan and Barbary had good reputations, and I believe if you don't pass the first time, you can retake the course again for free. So there's always that. Another big piece of advice I remember hearing is that you shouldn't fast forward through or skip portions of your bar prep course. So like for Kaplan, you basically watch a lecture on your computer or on the screen if you're all in a classroom together. And a lot of people skip through their lectures, or they don't do all the homework or the assigned tasks. Make sure you do everything. This is the bar exam that you do not want to mess up on, and I would say that the most important thing is to do all of your homework and all of your assigned tasks, because you never know if that one extra essay, that one extra review portion will help you on the exam. So why not get all of the information and all the help that you can get? Before I jump into actually showing you my schedule, I just want to give you a general outline. I basically studied from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. broken out between the 3 areas like I was telling you. Generally in the morning was my Kaplan review. During the afternoon was my supplemental bar review, and then I would go home pretty much around 4 or 5, eat dinner, and then study some more until I would sleep, and repeat it all for the next day. The way I thought of it was basically in weeks. So there's only a certain number of weeks before the bar exam, and so each week was a different level. During the beginning, of course, it wasn't as intense, and then towards the end it was the most intense in terms of studying. For the first few weeks, until July 4th, I only studied Monday through Friday and about half or possibly a full day on Saturday, but I took Sundays off. And then once July 4th hit, we actually didn't study at all on July 4th, and then after that it was 7 full days of studying with basically no breaks until the bar exam. Before I actually started studying after Memorial Day, I made sure I had all my flashcards ready for my rule statement. So basically I had all my flashcards ready so that when it came to memorizing, I didn't have to spend time making them, so I could just start memorizing right away. Because I'm focusing on a certain subject, I would either do the review course in the morning, do some practice questions, then memorize, and then do an essay. In the beginning, I obviously didn't have everything memorized yet, so I would refer back to my rule statements, but I would practice issue spotting, writing out the rule statements, and then analyzing and concluding in essays. Because we had the supplemental bar program, I was able to submit essays to my professor for him to grade and give me feedback, as well as Kaplan also has the ability to submit essays. You really have to do all of the assigned homework, like I said, but also the supplemental essays on the side. And then with MBE questions, we obviously did that in the supplemental program, but also doing some practice like 10 or 15 questions a day, maybe on that specific subject. That way you're practicing that certain subject because you just memorize it and it's fresh in your head. Like with the LSAT, reviewing why you got something wrong is really important because especially for multiple choice, you want to understand why you chose the wrong answer and not repeat the same mistakes again. Same with essay writing. Essays on the bar exam are very formulaic, similar to essays in law school. If you don't have the structure down and you don't have it easy for the grader to be able to figure out what you got and give you points, then you're not going to get those points. And it's all about how many points you can rack up in that one essay to make sure that you can pass the bar exam. While the bar exam is pass-fail, it's because of a certain threshold of points. The more points you get, the higher you are to passing, because let's say you need, I don't even remember, like say 500 points in order to pass and you had 499 or something, that one extra issue you could have spotted or that one extra analysis could have cost you not passing the first time. After week 3, I basically started doing 2 essays per subject, one that I would submit to Kaplan and one that I would submit to my professors through the supplemental bar program, as well as doing the legal analysis essays as well. This gives you a lot of practice, and sometimes the way that the essays are broken out, you can test yourself on certain types of subjects or certain subjects within a subject, if that makes sense. So if promissory estoppel is something that you struggle with in essay writing, you can find an essay that tested promissory estoppel. After July 4th, I studied 2 subjects a day, and I did that twice. Sometimes you can mix in the smaller subjects like community property or remedies with other subjects, and they don't need a full day, but things like contracts and torts and property, they almost need a full day to practice. If you don't have a supplemental bar program like I did, then just make sure you spend that extra time studying your MBEs or your multiple choice, as well as asking other people to help you grade. Perhaps there's other professors that will be willing to help you grade your essays. You can always submit them to other friends. Just practice, 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 and you guys will be just fine. Alright, so now is the fun part where I'm going to show you my actual study schedule. It's amazing that I was able to keep this and I was so detailed so that I can share it with you guys. It's basically showing what I did Monday through Sunday every week for the next 2 months between Memorial Day and the day I took the bar exam in late July. And as I mentioned, I have basically 3 categories. First was my Kaplan bar prep course, which was usually in the morning, and then I had the supplemental course, which was through Chapman. So not all of you will have this opportunity to have a sort of supplemental program. And third is just my own personal schedule of things that I fit in. And so I'll go through all of that. We're gonna head over to my screen share and then I'll show you guys there. Okay, so now you're looking at my Chapman University supplemental bar prep program schedule that I was telling you about. And as you can see, we basically start off by taking an entire mock bar MBE during the day so that we can start going through the questions. And my professor broke it out into torts, contracts, evidence, crim pro, con law, property, and we would go through the questions that we already answered and explain, why we got certain things wrong and to basically score ourselves to see how we would do. We did that 3 times, and like I said, before July 4th, we basically had done 3 mock bar MBEs. So this was really helpful, and as you can see, in the beginning it started off during the day, and then it started out just basically being in the afternoon. Now here's my Kaplan bar review schedule, and like I also said, this is tailored specifically to be towards the supplemental program that we had with Chapman, so it didn't conflict. And so that's why in the beginning it was in the afternoon. But generally we would start off in the morning, all of us would get into a room together and we would watch the live lectures. Like for example, June 3rd we started out with torts, and we would basically watch lectures from 9 to 1, doing some practice problems in between, but mostly just taking notes and learning about torts. And then we would switch over to the supplemental bar program where we would go over our MBE that we were doing. And since that ended around 5 p.m. or so, we would basically go back home and eat dinner or relax and then go and study some more. And like I also said, towards the middle of July, we did an actual simulated practice exam, including both essays and multiple choice. And then we basically scored ourselves to see how we would do and what we need to improve on. There was also a midterm practice MBE that we took. And I think what was helpful was doing this all together in one room. The Barbary students also were in a large room together watching the lectures, and it just helps you to keep you accountable and to make sure that you actually go to class and you're not just at home, because sometimes it's easy to be distracted and not be fully engaged. Alright, so here's my personal schedule, and just please ignore the random things like sandwich or other events that I had going on, but I basically wrote down my entire schedule so I even knew what I was eating that day. So you can kind of see that I would start off with Kaplan in the morning, break for lunch, then I would go over the MBE questions through the supplemental bar program, and then I would come home, rest a little, eat, and then I would start doing other things like some quizzes, other homework that Kaplan would assign. I would do some essays, I might even memorize. And like I also mentioned, Saturdays were basically free. I would maybe study in the morning, and then I had like weddings to go to or other events, and then Sunday I had completely free. Then if you skip over to after July 4th, which as you can see it says do not study today, which was an actual order from my professor. He said do not study on July 4th, take a break because after that it gets super intense. So for example, July 11th was a more typical day where, so as I mentioned, I would focus on certain subjects for that day. And so for example, July 11th looks like I was basically focusing on corporations. So I'm not sure what this practice essay thing was in the morning, but I basically spend time memorizing and then doing an essay to make sure that I memorized correctly and that I did the essay correctly, taking a break, memorizing again, really remembering, okay, what did I miss the first time, doing another essay, memorizing again. And then sometimes I would throw in other things like MBE questions or reviewing. So basically memorizing and then doing the essays, memorizing, doing the essays. And another example is like on July 17th, I was doing 2 subjects a day. So I was doing Crim Law and Civ Pro. So in the morning, I focused all on Crim Law, took a break, and in the night, I focused on Civ Pro. So basically, that was my schedule up until the bar exam. And like I said, this worked for me. I liked putting everything out in my schedule, but that's what I normally would do during law school anyway. And so I basically did the same thing except to a more intense level. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Comment below any questions you have about the bar exam. I know this is a really anxious time, especially for those of you who are going to be taking it in July. I really hope the best for you. And I know that everyone wants to pass the first time, but also realizing that the California bar exam is the hardest bar exam in the country, and so a lot of you won't pass the first time, but that's okay. I know a lot of good lawyers who took it the second time and passed in February after they realized what they did wrong, or they had to take it multiple times. But for each person it's different, and I know for me, I honestly have to say that it was all God, because I was still able to attend church and my Bible study and really had a lot of people praying for me to take this exam, and I was able to pass because, as you know from my law school video, I'm not a good test taker, especially with standardized testing. And I think realizing that the bar exam is all about practice, memorization and practice. Once you get the memorization down, you just have to practice all of those essays and those multiple choice questions and trying to figure out all of the different scenarios. Just know that I'm here for you, and let me know, of course, in the comments if you have any additional questions or if you have any tips that you can help other people who are going to take the bar exam. Next video will be all about what to expect on the actual days of the bar exam and how I prepared for that in terms of staying in a hotel, cooking my own meals, etc. So watch out for that video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more content. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.